What's up, guys? Fitz and Corona here, coming back to you with Fight Take Podcast. We're here for UFC Vegas 91, I believe it is, coming off, UFC 300. Um, we're, back at it with the Apex card, and this is like a prime Apex card. A lot of, real Apexy fights on this card. Not the overall greatest card ever, but, I'm happy, after having the week off. Um, we're back on it with the UFC, so, gonna be back, betting and watching and enjoying the fights. Before we get into this card, last weekend we did have the big fight between Haney and Ryan Garcia. And I'm not like the biggest boxing fan in the world, like I am a UFC fan, MMA fan, but I've really been trying to get into boxing and I'm really becoming a fan of the sport. And I mean, Ryan Garcia had me fooled because I thought it was batshit crazy. Um, what'd you make of the fight? I mean, it was a great fight. I mean, Ryan beat the shit out of him, but I mean, what's your whole take on Ryan Garcia?
Like you said, he had me fooled as well. I think he had the whole world fooled. We all thought he was fucking going nuts, and he was supposed to get destroyed by Haney, but ended up fucking going the opposite way. He really put it on Devin Haney, and he showed us that he still got it. And yeah, it was a crazy fight. And shout out to Haney for hanging in there. He got dropped unofficially like 5 or 6 times. I think they only counted like three of them, but yeah, he hung in there. Fucking shout out to Haney for that. Tough as fuck. He took a fucking shitload of left hooks. I noticed Ryan loves that fucking left hook. That's like his jab. He was setting everything up with that left hook, and hey, it was landing. So fuck it. But yeah, fucking Ryan.
Yeah, and I mean, we're definitely excited to see his next fight. Whether it's that rematch with Haney, which I think is what's probably gonna happen most likely, just because of the whole him missing weight stuff. No clarity on that title. Or I mean, even a Tank Davis rematch would be insane. I know they're talking about it now up at 143 or 140. So Ryan's not cutting that much weight. Um, but yeah, it's just real exciting for the sport of boxing and Ryan Garcia. Real character the kid is. Posting shit online like Devin Haney's waking up 4:30 to train in the morning and me, I'm boozing and praying to Jesus. I mean, he's just, out of his mind really, but he's a hell of a boxer, dude. Yeah, and then we had some PFL too. PFL first half of the season finished. That's always exciting. I want to stay tuned on that. And as the PFL season develops, we'll try to, give you some picks there. But, let's just get right into it. UFC Vegas 91 at the Apex. We got flyweights facing off in the main event. Alex Perez versus Mateus Nicolau. Pretty high level main event. But yeah, let's just get into the card. First fight of the night is Mahashat versus Gabriel Benitez in the lightweight division. Mahashat has had some tough goes in his last couple of fights, taking some losses, but I think he's a pretty decent prospect overall. Um, has some decent knockout power and stuff, good frame for the division. Um, and as for Gabriel Benitez, he's getting up there in age, got submitted in his last fight by Jim Miller. Um, if you go ahead and you look at the wins of Benitez in the UFC, I mean, I'm just gonna take you through it right here because it's something else, man. His wins, I mean, if you know Charlie Oliveira's, bum. Justin James, bum. And then he has I like Jason Knight a lot. He has somehow two of his wins in the UFC are over guys named Humberto. I mean, I've never heard of a UFC fighter named Humberto, but apparently Gabriel Benitez has fought two different of them and beat them both. So he needs to change his nickname to the Humberto Killer because that's, how he's probably stayed in the UFC this long. But yeah, I think this is a tough fight for him. I think Mahashate, the younger fighter, more explosive fighters, probably gonna get a knockout here. Benitez might, show up, might make this a tough fight, but I'm probably gonna roll with Mahashate and take the knockout here. Um, you know, his last two losses to Rafa Garcia and Borishev Slavakos, those are both decent fighters. It's hard to blame him too much for either of those losses, and he's still at an age where I think he can develop. And going over, taking a look at the live line, Mahashat is about 2-1 favorite. Um, I'm just gonna try to see knockout real quick if we have it. I don't see it here. But yeah, go ahead. What are you thinking on this fight? You like any of
Uh,
these guys as prospects? I mean, you can't call Benitez a prospect, but what are your takes on?
yeah, like you said, Benitez is he's getting up there in age. He's a little older, whereas his opponent is he's a bit younger than him, so that's definitely going to favor him this fight. I know Benitez's opponent is coming off a nasty knockout loss, but he's had some time to recover, so he should be good going into this fight. And I expect this fight to stay standing. Uh, Prediction, I don't know. I do see a knockout though.
Yeah, like I said, I think Mahashate gets the knockout done. Um, but yeah, let's just try to get through some of these prelims. I mean, this next fight is there's two, I mean, real low level. I won't call, Nalia, she's a goat, but real low level fight here. Man, I mean, Ivana Petrovic lost her UFC debut. It was a real tough look in her UFC debut, losing to Luana Carolina. Not the greatest performance in the world. She's gonna look to bounce back here, get her first win over Na Liang, who is 0-3 in the UFC and been finished 3 times. Na Liang, some of the worst cardio we've ever seen in the UFC. Just goes out there. She'll put on a decent fight for about 3 minutes. Look like Amanda Nunes, Chinese Amanda Nunes, and then she's just done. Absolutely just gassed, gassed out. So tough to imagine, Na Liang getting a win in the UFC. Um, Unfortunately, if there's any chance she gets one, maybe it's in this fight right here, because her opponent Petrovic is someone who has no wins in the UFC and really hasn't proven herself, and she's a massive favorite in this fight. I get it. I understand why, just because of what Na Liang brings to the octagon, but to be a -500, I mean it's crazy. I mean that's a huge line on someone who's proven nothing. But I think she'll go out there and get the win. But you have anything to say about this fight? What do you think?
Uh, you covered pretty much most of it. Leong is on a 3 fight skid, and Ivana, she did lose her UFC debut. I think Ivana's gonna win the fight as long as she stays off the cage, because that was a problem in her last fight. She was just fucking getting held against the cage and wasn't able to do much. But if she can keep it in the center, she'll be able to land some combos, get the job done.
Yeah, and I mean maybe we even see the grappling or something used into play here. And yeah, I mean we can I'm trying to get one quick video pulled up that I want to see, but we can move on to the next fight. You can start off for this one. It's gonna be I mean, sorry. This is a tough one because it's a real short notice fight between two guys. James Lontop, James, I mean fighting out Peru. I guess you're gonna say James. On top, I don't last name's probably tough versus Chris Padilla. Um, this fight really last minute. Padilla did have a fight coming up. He's coming off a win over a guy we were kind of just talking about, Justin Jeans, someone who we're not too high on here at Fight Take. Um, but yeah, I can't say I've seen too much on this guy, Padilla. Record looks decent, but took some losses back in the day to Gabe Green and some other guys I'm not too familiar with as far as his wins. I've got to say, you know, Justin James is probably the best win. As far as Hamas goes, though, his fight on Dana White's Contender Series was, pretty impressive. Beating Malik Lewis, who, is 0-2 in the Contender Series, but he looked decent in both his fights, in my opinion, looked to be a decent fighter. Um, but yeah, I just think fighting a guy like James on short notice, is a tough ask for anyone, especially someone making their UFC debut. I was probably gonna favor James in the fight against Gabe Green, I think, even though I am a bit of a fan of Gabe Green. But yeah, I'm a big fan of these fighters coming out of Peru. They have a lot of real tough guys. They all go in there, they scrap. James is gonna come with really good cardio, and I think he's just gonna get the job done.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride with him as well for this fight. He's making his debut due to two of his other fights being canceled, and everyone that makes their debut, they got something to prove. So I think he's really gonna go out there and try and put on a good performance against Padilla. And also he's on an 11 fight win streak too. That's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, that is definitely something to note. Um, but yeah, let's just keep getting into it. Next fight on the card is gonna be Ketlin Souza versus Marnik Man. I mean, I'll be real quick on this one. I don't think Marnik Man is a, real anything in the UFC. Oh, real quick, forgot to mention James. The only lines I can find, he's about minus 350. I'm expecting another big favorite here in Caitlin Souza. And yep, about exactly the same line, minus 340, minus 335 over Marnik Man. Man's gonna have to get the fight to the ground here. I guess that's her one path to victory. But yeah, it's just really hard to see Marnik Man. We're talking about Non Liang, not imagining her getting a fight in the UFC. Marnik Man's another one, almost impossible to think of her getting a fight in the UFC. Really, I hate to say it, I don't mean to be disrespectful. She might go out there and make me look silly, but as far as what I've seen from her, just not really a UFC caliber fighter. Um, but yeah, what do you think of this fight? I got Caitlin Souza. I think she's gonna make it look easy on the feet. Marnik Man's best path to victory is definitely, I would say, trying to get the fight to the ground. So I mean, there is a path to victory there. I just don't think it's too likely.
I think I'm gonna go with Souza too. This is both of their second UFC fight, and they're both 0-1 too. So both gonna go out there and get after it. They both have something to prove to show that they really belong to the top. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Souza too.
Yeah, and I mean, Souza did have a really, terrible UFC debut. I mean, let's not forget. But like I said, it's just really tough to imagine Marnik Man getting a win in the UFC. So I think Souza is gonna make do on her, first UFC win and take out Marnik Man. You never really want to target those decisions in some of these lower level women's MMA fights. The decision is what you want to target, but I could even imagine a world where Souza gets her out of there and finishes the fight by TKO, to be honest. And then let's just keep moving up on the card. Next fight on the night is gonna be prime apex sloppy heavyweights thrown around. Dontel Mays versus Kyle Machado. Two real, low level heavyweights in my opinion. What do you make of this fight?
Uh, you never know with heavyweights whether they're in for a fucking snooze fest or an early KO. But I think I'm gonna go with Kyle Machacho by KO.
Yeah. And then finally, my bad. I'm finally able to pull up on Twitter if we're gonna see now. I think this is gonna get you on the Na Liang hype train. And shout out to my guy DFS by the numbers here, but this is him raging after she lost her last fight, and now let's try to Na Liang. Yeah, there's a song somewhere too I'm trying to find. But anyways, enough of that distraction. Let's get into the heavyweight fight. Um, Dontel Mays versus Cal Machado. Yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of Dontel Mays. Um, really has not been impressive in his UFC career so far. Kind of win loss. Took out Andre Arlovsky. That makes me like him even less. Dontel Mays is not deserving of having to win against Andre Arlovsky. That's just a result of Andre, being a little washed past his prime. Um, he lost that fight to Hamdi Abdulwal, who's that Egyptian wrestler who was a really short guy. I don't know if you ever saw that fight, but let's check in on how Hamdi's doing. Has he fought since? No. He had that exciting UFC win, and then I think he popped for steroids. I definitely had money on Dontel Mays in that fight and lost money. But he's fought some tough competition like Cyril Gane. Two of his losses are to Rodrigo Nascimento and Augusto Sakai, and we're kind of seeing he has that losses to some Brazilian fighters, and he's coming up against another, good Brazilian heavyweight. Um, but Kai Machado in his last fight, lost a tough fight to Mick Parkin, who's a decent prospect. Before that, he had a decent win on the Contender Series. I can't say it was the most impressive win in the world, though. It was just kind of meh. So I don't know. It's really tough to predict this fight. I don't really want to pick Dontel Mays, but the line right now, I mean, Cal Kyle Machado is minus 115. I mean, I want to see the values on Dontel Mays. I mean, he has the more UFC experience, and Cal hasn't really proved anything. Um, we saw in his last fight, Mick Parkin was able to get the takedowns. I mean, I think that's gonna have to be big boy Dontel Mays' plan. We see him kind of able to move the grappling, use the grappling at times, but just a kind of sloppy heavyweight fight. Who do you got in the heavyweight division?
Sorry, what was that?
Dontel Mays, Kyle Machado.
I'm going with Kyle too. Like I said, we don't know with these fucking heavyweights. We might be in for a snooze fest, or it might be an early KO.
But you just don't really rate Dontel Mays at all.
Uh, I mean, he's okay. Yeah, don't really have much to say about him.
Yeah. Let's just keep moving on. Now we have, a decent lightweight scrap. Austin Hubbard taking on Michael Figlak. Hubbard's a guy who's bounced in and out of the UFC. We've seen him get cut, then come back through the Ultimate Fighter. This is his first fight since losing the Ultimate Fighter finale, which was a tough loss to Kurt Holobaugh. Um, as far as Figlak, I'll pull it up here. He also, only one fight in the UFC a while ago at this point, almost, a year and a half, 2 years ago. He got dominated by Faraz Ziam. Faraz Ziam was dominating with him with the wrestling. And Faraz Ziam is someone who's kind of known as a striker. So I think Hubbard's going to be able to use the grappling, mix in the grappling here. And I like Hubbard. It's one of my probably favorite plays of the week, I say. But Figlak also has taken a lot of time off. Maybe he's just making improvements. You see only one canceled fight there, so you don't know. I'm not really too sure if that was an injury on his part or Duncan's or what happened with that fight, why it fell through. But yeah, maybe he's made leaps and bounds, especially in the grappling since his last fight. But I gotta say the value here is on Austin Hubbard, plus 145. It looks like money is coming in on Hubbard, so I will try to get on that line as soon as possible if you can. And yeah, this is gonna be one of probably my bigger bets of the week. So Austin Hubbard, I like to get the upset here. What about you?
Um, yeah, this is a close fight. I think I'm gonna go with Hubbard too. I know he's 1-1, got subbed his last fight, but like you said, there's good value on him. And Figlock he has been gone for a minute from competition ever since he lost to Zion. But we don't know if he's gonna have ring rust or if he's gonna come back sharper. It's just you just don't know. But I think I'm going with Hubbard too.
Yeah, so we both got the upset there. So I think that's something you guys might want to take a look at. Um, Hubbard And yeah, moving on, we have another underdog, Ronnie Yaya, kind of a legend of the game in my opinion. This is a real OG. This guy goes way back. It's crazy that he's still fighting. This is a guy who kind of always seemed old, even back in the day, was like an old guy. But you know the deal with Ronnie Yaya, real elite jiu-jitsu. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the one facet of his game. His real crazy grip strength. He can grab you, pull you down anywhere. But Victor Henry is a pretty well-rounded guy. I'm not the biggest Victor Henry fan in the world, and I definitely don't like him. At this line here, um, you know, but it's tough to pick Ronnie Yaya in a fight. I think Henry's just a little too well-rounded. I think he'll be able to stop the grappling and just really outpace Yaya on the feet and beat him up and might even be able to get him out of there. Yaya, one of the oldest bantamweight fighters. Um, I'd be really happy if he pulls off a submission. It would be a huge upset, but I just don't see it happening here. What about you? You think Yaya has a chance coming as a big underdog, plus 350 about?
Honestly, no, I don't think so. He's 39 years old and he's fighting at bantamweight. That's pretty old for a bantamweight. Most bantamweights don't fucking fight past 35, 36. But his jiu-jitsu is nasty. He's nasty on the ground. But Henry is a few years younger than him, so he's just gonna look to keep it on the feet. And I think he has a big advantage on the feet. He's probably gonna end up fucking chinning yeah.
Yeah, like we've seen in Yaya's last fight. Um, but yeah, we've seen Henry on his day look really good, like his fight against Jaime Barcelos, and then he's also thrown up some stinkers, losing to Rafael Sunsao, which is insane. How do you lose to a Sunsao at that point in his career? I think he's the only person a Sunsao might have beaten post USADA, which is, come on, shame on you, Victor Henry. Could have had a lot more hype before that. Anyways, on to the main card. Banger of an opener. Tim Means, the Dirty Bird. Legend, old school veteran at this point. Scrapper taking on Uris the Dr. Medic. I'm a big fan of Medic. He's a technical striker, powerful guy, finished all his wins. And sadly for Tim Means, I see that's how it's gonna go. Medic is a heavy favorite here. And I'm sure the knockout line, if we can get it, which it looks like we should be able to, is gonna be inflated. Yeah. Medic knocks out minus 105. I mean, we've seen Tim Means get submitted a lot, I think more than knocked out, but that's a lot of guys, hurting him on the feet, club and subbing. And I think if Medic hurts you on the feet, it's gonna be a whole different type of danger. Medic, has had some tough performances in the UFC. His last fight, he lost to, the fucking Mongolian Iceman, um, Orglaclop, um, Mitobal, Orglabal. And, he took a tough loss to Jalen Turner, but Jalen, oh, don't even mention that name to me, actually. Um, but yeah, finished Omar Morales, really impressive knockout over Matthew Semmelsberger. I like Medic here to get the knockout. The line's not great, minus 105, but if it's a lock, it's a lock. So Medic's just gonna knock out Tim Means. I do think Means is going to be a lot bigger though, so I want to see how they match up. I'm not the biggest Medic at welterweight guy. I think, this guy should be a lightweight, or maybe if we see that 165 division finally, it'd be perfect for Earl Medic. He'd really be a top 15 fighter there, I think. But he's a little small for welterweight. I've kind of always thought that, and Means is a big guy, but he's way too slow.
Yeah, this is a classic boxer versus kickboxer match, and um, uh, I think Tim's gonna get knocked out too. Medic is just a lot cleaner with the kickboxing, and like you said, he's finished all of his wins in the UFC. And Tim Means he's just a little older now, so he's probably gonna end up getting chin too.
Yeah. And then next fight on the card might be my favorite. Jonathan Pierce, one of my personal favorite fighters. Frustrating performance. So in his last fight against Joe Anderson Burrito, he was dominating, got cocky, and then got caught with a sick choke. Brito hit him with that ninja choke. It was nasty, but he was literally taunting him, dominating the fight before that. But I think he's gonna learn from that. I think he's gonna come back and put on a real show this time, not play around, not play with his food. I think he's gonna get David Onama out of there. Onama's a really good striker, but I think he has some deficiencies in the ground game, if I'm being honest. And you don't want to have any deficiencies in your ground game fighting a guy like Jonathan Pierce, because this guy will drown you, and that's what I expect him to do. JSP, inside the distance is about even money. But maybe you want to target like round two, round three finish for Jonathan Pierce. I, I'm riding with Jonathan Pierce. His money line, I think there's decent value on it. Yeah, minus 166, minus 175, minus 180. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm taking JSP all day. He might get slept here, he might get chin, but I'm backing my boy. I think he's gonna get the job done. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going with Jonathan Pierce too. He usually doesn't have boring fights. He comes to fight. He's on go mode from the start. And I think I don't know if he'll get a finish, might go to a decision, but I think he'll get the job done.
Yeah, and then moving up the main card. Um, Not too sure why I have this on the main card. Maybe they're high on this guy, Jante Diaz. He's a kickboxer with some experience. Only 6-0 in MMA, but he has that kickboxing background. Taking on Austin Lane, the guy Greg Hardy knocked out on the Contender Series. That's kind of what I'll always remember him for. Um, we've seen Lane after that have success in his UFC. He's a huge guy. Real long for the division. But when he fought even anyone decent level, Justin Tafa got slept pretty quickly, and yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen here. I like Janta. I mean, I don't think Lane can strike with a guy who has got that kickboxing experience. Janta had a pretty um great performance on his Contender Series, caught the knockout, um devastating fashion if I remember. And yeah, I mean, if you're gonna beat this guy, I think you're gonna have to use the wrestling, and I don't know if Austin Lane really has that in his pocket. Um, so I like Jonta here, and I'm gonna go with knockout. We just seen Austin Lane chin in his last fight, and we've seen him chin before, so I'm sure it's gonna be pretty inflated. Another heavy knockout line, minus 190. Wow, really heavy. Um, is what it is, though. If he wins, it's probably going to be knockout, so you get a little more value there than the money line. But yeah, you got any take on this fight? I think they're trying to build Deniz up as one of these next kickboxer turned UFC prospects.
I think they're trying to do the same thing too. He's 6-0, and he's from Brazil too, most likely from the favela. So the story will build up. But yeah, I think they're trying to do the same shit. Austin Lane's probably gonna get chinned.
Yeah, and then just keep moving up the card. This is a decent scrap between 125ers. Aaron Lipsky, whoo, one of my all-time MMA crushes. Look at her, Jesus Christ. She's been on a hot streak lately. Hot streak, literally wherever she walks. Three in a row. I think she was underdogs in all three of these fights. And these are some tough matchups. JJ Aldrich, Melissa Gatto, and Casey O'Neill are all girls I'm pretty high on. I think are all pretty good fighters. And Ariana Lipsky's a really good striker. But she does have some holes on the ground in her ground game. Excuse me. I know she has that one really nasty submission, that one knee bar heel hook, whatever you want to call it. Um, but yeah, just someone we've seen in her losses, like the one against she got dominated on the ground by Antonina Shevchenko, which I mean, if you know Antonina Shevchenko, she's one of the worst grapplers ever. So for Lipsky to get dominated on the ground by her, I mean, come on. But who knows what was going on there, just might have been a bad night for Lipsky. And she's been on a tear lately, especially her last fight, submitting Casey O'Neill. That's a great result. But Silva, 5 in a row, I believe undefeated in the UFC. Let's check the record here. 5-0. Yeah, definitely undefeated in the UFC. Quite the impressive streak here, taking out some decent competition. 4 submissions in the UFC, including the Contender Series. So, if you kind of put the holes together, you see why Karine Silva's a favorite, because we've seen Ariana Lipski, you know, be dominated on the map by someone like Anthony Shevchenko, and Karine Silva's a girl who's going out there and literally submitting everyone. So if she gets on top, this fight might be over. But it's really important to look at Lipski's takedown defense in her last 3 fights has been spectacular, man. And I believe it's something like 0 for 20, 0 for 21, and she's fighting, pretty good wrestlers in JJ Aldrich, Melissa Gatto, and Casey O'Neill. All 3 of those girls can wrestle pretty good. So this is definitely, I would say, the toughest fight of Karine Silva's career. And oh man, I've honestly had trouble picking Lipski fights because I've always liked to pick her, and then recently, I think specifically in her last 2 fights, I was against her, maybe even the last 3. So I've been having some trouble picking her. But I want to pick her here. Karine Silva's got to prove a little more to me. I mean, I don't know. This is a tough pick. Definitely not official, but take the fight maybe to go to the decision. I would like that. Prop, I think we could get some value there. I think it'll be plus money, which if you get plus money on a women's fight to go to decision, take it. I think always, maybe even in that Na Liang fight. I know I'm crazy, but I think you could have some value there. But yeah, let's check the fight to go to decision plus 138. So that's probably the bet I would want to take. And right now I'll lean Lipski decision. What about you?
I don't know who I'm picking, but Karine Silva's fucking solid on the ground. She's on a little win streak. Ariane Lipski's on a little win streak, and yeah, Ariane Lipski's just gonna have to keep the fight on the ground, and hopefully her takedown defense holds up this fight like it has been her past few. But uh I don't know if it goes to a decision. I think someone's getting finished.
Yeah, I mean, if it's either going to be a knockout for Lipski or a submission for Silva, I'd say. If it is inside
Yeah.
the distance, those are, kind of like a striker versus grappler matchup. Yeah, let's get into the co-main event. We have Ryan Spann fighting Anthony Smith for the 3rd time. These guys just fought, but they're running it right back. Um, yeah, it was a split decision, so they figured they'd just throw the fight again. Ryan Spann's gonna finally look to get that win. Lionheart has been able to beat him, and I mean, does Ryan span it like? I was thinking about it. Like, has anyone been in more co-main events than Ryan Spann? I mean, this guy's always like the co-main event, dude. Like, just a classic fight night co-main eventer, like Ryan Spann or someone. Like, just classic co-main event. I don't know. I feel like this guy's just bred to be in co-main events. But yeah, taking on Bogdan Guskov, fake Anthony Smith, the Russian Anthony Smith, fucking alien looking motherfucker, scary guy. But I'm not too sold on him as a fighter, has his hands real low, has some good power, but I think Ozdemir exposed him. Span's a good grappler, and I think even on the feet, Span's gonna hit him. And I like Span knockout here actually over the submission. Um, I think there's going to be a little more value on the knockout. Span knockout plus 225. Submission's the same thing, but I'll go knockout. What about you?
Yeah, I think Ryan Spann's gonna knock him out too. He's pretty well rounded, and well, we know he has a knockout power. He's fucking nasty on the feet. But yeah, I got Ryan Spann fucking knocking out Anthony Smith's twin.
Yeah, and I mean Ryan Span's really good with the jiu-jitsu too. He has really nice front strokes. If the fight goes to the ground, I think despite Guskov having some like bullshit ass master of sambo, Span's gonna submit him, gonna crank his neck, choke him out. And yeah, let's just finally get to the main event. Probably by far the best fight, maybe even, the only good fight on paper on this card. I hate to say it. And it's short notice. Mateus Nicolau fighting Alex Perez was supposed to be Manuel Cape. Cape pulled out. Shocker. Um, we saw Nurmagomedov pull out today. Another shocker. Bellator main event. Who is that? Usman, right? I
Yeah.
believe so. Yeah. Fucking pops for steroids and pulls out of the fight because he probably is gonna pop again. But I mean, speaking of guys that pull out of fights, Alex Perez pulls out a. We're gonna see it right here. This is gonna be crazy, guys. And I know this is not all his fault, but no one else's Tapology looks like this, bro. This is insane.
Dude, he hasn't had a fucking win since 2020.
Yeah, that's sad. But I mean, look at the C's, bro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, bro. 13 canceled fights. But shout out to him stepping in on short notice. After, I mean, it feels like he just fought, he just took on Mikhailov, just a couple months ago. So it's good to see him active, good to see him trying to, get back in there. I thought the fight against Mikhailov, he looked really good, was stuffing the takedowns. I thought he arguably won it. I had Mikhailov and I was real nervous. Um, I thought they were gonna maybe give it to Perez because if you judge the fight on damage, I thought Perez kind of did more damage. Um, but yeah, Nicolau, I'm a pretty big fan of him. Decent fan, He's a real technical fighter, really has some great skills, but a little low volume. Doesn't really, put out all the pressure in the world that he should. Like, I feel like if he put on more of a pace, he could be, more of a dominant fighter. We know that he is dangerous on the ground too, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but I don't know if he's gonna be able to take down Alex Perez. I mean, look at the takedown defense Alex Perez showed in his last fight. So to imagine Nicolau getting takedowns, I know Alex Perez has been submitted a ton. I understand that, and that's a clear path to victory. But I struggle to see Nicolau getting a takedown here, maybe a club and sub. But on the feet, Alex Perez has never been dropped. So obviously never been knocked out. Really solid chin. We know he's got that nasty leg kick. And we just haven't really had the opportunity to see Alex Perez show his skill set in a long time. Like, if you look at the fights of Alex Perez, I mean, the Mikhail fight's such a tough matchup. I mean, Mikhail's such a stud. He was literally coming forward with nonstop takedowns. And I mean, Perez was stuffing all the takedowns, but it's tough to do. I mean, literally, Mikhail was just nonstop with the takedowns. The Pantoja fight, literally, it's like 1 second into the fight, they're just throwing haymakers. Pantoja gets on his back, fight ends there, No shame in that loss. Pantoja is by far the best in this division. And then the Figueiredo fight was another first round, just crazy fight. I mean, that Figueiredo guillotine, I think I talked about it on 300, is one of my all-time, favorite submissions. The way he jumped on it was crazy. But yeah, before that was, some really good wins over the likes of Mark De La Rosa, Jordan Espinoza, and Jussier Formiga, which was the one where he, killed him with the leg kicks. And only look at the guys he's lost to: Joseph Benavidez, Davison Figueiredo, Muhammad Makhayev, and Alexander Pantoja. So I mean, those are high level losses, But as far as recently, some earlier losses outside the UFC to some other guys. But as for the UFC, this guy's only lost to the elite level. I know Nicolau's a stud. But I'm gonna take Perez to pull off the upset here. I still gotta, finish up the research, finish up the take, but this is a tough pick, but I'll go Perez. Maybe knockout, but I lean decision.
I think I'm gonna go with Perez by knockout too. Like
Yeah.
we just saw, he hasn't had a win in 4 years, and well, he's fucking dying to get back in the win column. And he had a really good fight with Makhayev. He stopped like fucking 20 takedowns. Makhayev was really struggling in that fight, and Makhayev is supposed to be the future of the division, but after performing, you kind of start to question that. But yeah, Alex Perez looked good in that Makhayev fight, and he has really good calf kicks. He's got power on the feet. And you look at Nicolau's style, he's a lot more passive. He's really good at countering. He has good footwork and he has a really good left hook too. But his passive style, I don't think it's gonna work against Alex Perez. Alex Perez is gonna end up chewing that leg and then just working up top.
Yeah, so we're both on the underdog here in the main event. And yeah, guys, it was fun breaking down this card. I'll be trying to post on social media throughout the week, trying to get picks out there too. Thanks for joining me, Edgar. We're gonna be back at this next week. Pay-per-view week next week, the real one. So already bouncing back with another pay-per-view, which is dope. So we're gonna try to probably recap this one and then get into the pay-per-view preview as well. But yeah, Edgar, thanks for joining. This was dope as always. Great job with the breakdowns, and good luck this week if you guys are betting the fights. Peace out.